Hello everyone and welcome to lab 1 of Learn Azure step-by-step video tutorial. And in this first lab, which is approximately of 45 minutes, what I will be doing is I'll be going and I'll be hosting a website on the Azure portal. So what I will do in this 45 minutes, I'll be doing the following. First, I will start with fundamentals. I will first talk about what is SAAS, PAAS and IAAS, because without this, you won't be able to understand what is cloud and what is Azure. And once these terminologies are cleared, I will talk about Azure and cloud. Once that is done, I will help you in understanding how to go and register on the Azure portal and how to get your free credit limits. And once that is done, we will go and we'll create a simple website or a simple HTML page and we will deploy it on the Azure portal. Now, while I'm doing this demo, I will be also going through a lot of small things. I will talk about resource. I will talk about resource groups. I will talk about app editor. I will talk about service plans. I will be doing a FTP and so many things. So it's a promise. If you go through this 45 minutes, you would be at least in a position to go and host your first website on the Azure portal. So let us start. Now, before we start with Azure, before we go into Azure, we need to understand something called as cloud. And in order to understand cloud, we need to understand three terminologies: SAAS, PAAS and IAAS. Now you can see that I did not spell it as SaaS, PAAS and I did not spell that because when you spell this word IAAS, right, it looks very embarrassing, right? So you can use my trick. You can say SAAS, PAAS and IAAS, right? So let us first try to understand these three terminologies. So we'll start from right to left. We'll first understand these three terminologies, then we will define cloud, and then we will define Azure. Now, when you go to host a website, so when you actually go to some hosting provider and you say you want to host a website, the hosting provider has to give you a lot of services. He has to give you hard disk, he has to give you bandwidth, he has to allocate you RAM, he has to allocate you CPU, he has to allocate virtual machines, give you softwares and so many things, right? If you see these services, we can divide into three categories. So these all services we can divide into three categories. One is the infrastructure service, another one is a platform service, and the last one is a software service. So let's quickly run through each one of these layers. So the infrastructure layer is the metal part of your hosting. So metal part means it has RAM, hard disk, virtual machines, the CPU, your routers, your networking, everything is in this layer. On the top of it, we have the platform layer, which has operating systems. Probably you need databases like SQL Server, Oracle, you need frameworks like Java, .NET or like Angular, right? You need web servers like IAAS, Tomcat, Apache. So this is basically your platform, which makes this metal alive. Remember, any hardware which we buy, right, only becomes alive or only becomes useful when you have the necessary softwares like operating system and so on. So that is the platform part. And then the third layer is the softwares layer, wherein we have the application software. For example, probably you have a mail software for your website, you have invoicing must be, or you have accounting softwares, or you have a control panel, right? So all that thing actually comes in the software layer. So in short, when any hosting provider wants to give you service for hosting a website, it is classified into three layers. One is the infrastructure layer, the platform layer, and the software layer. Now, if you're supposed to do all of these things by yourself, it is quite of a hard work, right? So, like for example, if you want to host a website and you say that I will do all of these things by myself, then you need to hunt a data center, you need to buy the operating system license upfront, you need to get the hardwares, the CPU, the RAM, the whole box, right? You need technicians, you need network guys, you need database guys, you need hardware engineers and so on, right? So basically you pay upfront all the cost, right? And you are not aware still that your site will be giving you how much ROI, right, or how much money. So you'd like to engage with the web hosting provider in such a way that you'd want it to be elastic, you would want it to be flexible, you want to pay for only what you use, right? In other words, you want it to be on demand. So in cloud, what happens is it follows the two principles of O. So there are two principles, O and O. So O, the first O stands for on demand. On demand means I will say that, okay, I just need 1 GB RAM, 200 GB hard disk for 10 days, right? So first is the first principle of cloud is that it is on demand, it is flexible, it is elastic in nature. So I can start with, like, let's say, a simple machine like 4 GB RAM and 200 GB hard disk, and tomorrow if I grow, I will say, okay, now I want a 8 GB RAM machine. So I can scale up and I can scale down, right? And I will pay only for what I use. The second thing is everything is outsourced. The second O stands for outsourcing, means I don't worry about who takes the backup, who installs the software, where do you procure it from, right? So the resources part also decline over here, because now everything is outsourced to your hosting provider. So cloud has the two big O's. The first one is everything is on demand, it is elastic, and the second one is everything is outsourced, so that you just concentrate on your website, you just concentrate on your business. In other words, we want things to be as a service. Again, I repeat this sentence. We want to deal with the hosting provider in terms of services rather than buying things up front. For example, when you go to a hotel, right, to eat, you do not worry about the cook, you do not worry about what is happening at the back, from where he's buying things. You just place your order, you eat it, and you go. And after that, washing the dishes, keeping the place clean, everything is the headache of the restaurant, right? So here also we want to deal in terms of services. So it is possible that I just want the infrastructure as a service, or must be I want the platform as a service, or I want just the software as a service. So basically we want the hosting provider to provide us a flexibility, saying that which layer you want, and from that which item you want as a service, and for how much time. So that's what exactly cloud is all about. Cloud is all about on demand and outsourced. So now coming to Azure. So now that we know the definition of cloud, so what is Azure? Azure is nothing but it is Microsoft's cloud. It is the solution given by Microsoft for cloud. So if you see here, like, you can see that I am logged into the Azure portal. I will come to the steps of how to go and register to the Azure portal. But here you can see I can go and I can scale up and I can scale down elastic. That's a very important word. So you can see, like, when I go and choose any kind of a service, for example, you can see here I can go to any kind of service. I want to add a service. So I'll say I want to go and just host a simple website. Now, when I go to host this website, I can go and define that what kind of plan I want. I can go and say that I just want it to be free. You can see this is the thing which is free with a 1 GB storage, right? Or I can just pay some money and say, okay, I want 1 GB storage, but I need some domain names as well, right? Custom domains, right? Or I can, so let us say I start with free and my website goes great, right? And tomorrow if I want to go and upgrade, I don't have to send a mail to the hosting provider saying please upgrade and then negotiate, right? What I can do is I can just go and change my plan. So I can just go up, I can scale up, and I can choose must be this service, where I will say, okay, I want a 4-core machine with a 14 GB RAM and 250 GB hard disk, right? So you can see, like, this is the most important part of a cloud, that you can scale up, you can scale down, you can pay as you use, right? So if I go and host this service, so he will only charge me for the time I have used it. If I go and shut down that website, I will not be charged for that. So normally when you buy from GoDaddy or from other hosting providers, they take the money upfront from you. They are not elastic in nature. So they say that, okay, here is my standard package with this much hard disk, with this operating system, with this, that's it, right? Now you use the website or you do not use the website, you have to pay it upfront, right? While in case of a cloud-based solution like Azure or Amazon, you will pay only for what you use. That's a big difference. So that was a definition of cloud, that was a definition of Azure, and that was the understanding for IAAS, PAAS and SAAS. So the first step is we need to get access to the Azure account, right, to the Azure portal. So go ahead to account.azure.com, fill in the registration. Now, in order to get access to the free services, right, so you can see here, it gives you a 12 months of free service with a 13,300 of Azure credit, right? And it also says that this is a free account. It does not automatically upgrade to a paid subscription. Now 13,300 rupees approximately comes to $200 approximately. Okay, so you need to provide your credit card in order to get access to the Azure services. So please do go and provide it. And as Microsoft is saying that there is no commitment, they will not be upgrading automatically to paid subscription. So I don't think that the money will be deducted, right? So go ahead, register yourself and get access to the free Azure credit so that you can go ahead with this training. Now, once you log into the site or once you register on the Azure site, you get access to a portal like this. So you can see now I'm actually surfing portal.azure.com. So I get access to the site, and when I log in, you can see in my messages, it says that you have some free subscription trial and this is the amount, right? Now, one very important tip, before you start learning Azure has lot of services. You can see at the left hand side, look at those menus, they are huge in numbers, right? These menus also have sub menus inside it. So do not try to learn all of this in one go. If you try to do that, you lose stamina and you will not end up anywhere, right? So for the coming 1 or 2 hours, try to follow me. And once you are inside Azure project, you can go and hunt for those higher end services, right? Now, as we said previously, that at the end of the day, the whole goal of cloud is that we want to actually go and avail services. We want to go and book services, and we want to pay as we use, right? So in Azure, actually what you have to do is you have to actually go and say that which resources you want. So you need to log into Azure portal and say that I want a virtual machine of Windows Server 2012. I want SQL Server RDBMS. I want an IAAS server, right? So in short, if you see out here, there is something called as resources. That's the first thing. You can see there's a dashboard here at the left hand side. This dashboard actually shows you the overall things, what is happening in Azure. I will talk about this later on. Let's go to resources. So you can see at the left hand side, you have a resource. So basically in Azure, you would be actually going and adding a resource. So you'll say that, okay, I want to go and add Windows Server 2016 virtual machine, or I want to go and add this storage device. I want to go and add this web project, right? So in other words, in Azure, we actually first create a resource. Now, when you're working with bigger projects, you would be dealing with a lot of resources. You would be dealing with 50, 60 resources at one time. So you can have a resource called as a server. You can have a resource which is a database. You can have a resource which is a web server, and so on. And for better management of these resources, you'd like to group them. For example, you'd like to create a resource group called as web development. And in that web development, you will say, okay, this is web development for XX client, and it has this server, it has this database. So you'd like to group these resources so that you can do accounting, you can better manage them, and so on, right? So you can see over here in the portal, there is something called as resource group. So first thing is, in this all resources, you will see all your resources, what is there currently in your portal. And in the resource groups, you can go and create a group and put the resources into this group so that you can do better accounting, you can better manage them. So let us first go and create a resource group here. So I'll say, okay, this is a resource group. So I have clicked on add here, and let us name this resource group as, let's say web development for client 1. So there is some client 1 out there, and for that client 1, I'm going to go and put a lot of resources. So I have grouped them into a group name called as web development for client 1. And the subscription, so at this moment I have this free trial. I will use this. Now you can see there is something called as resource group location, right? So what exactly is this? Now, when you take any resource, for example, when you take a server, then that server is actually running on some data center, which is probably in US, probably in UK. So you can say that, okay, this server actually runs on the US data center. So you have the the flexibility to pick up the geographical location where you want that resource to be allocated. For example, if I am from India, so I would like to take the data center which is near to India, right? So each one of these resources can have their own geographical data center. Now in the resource group, we have the metadata stored for all of these resources. So you would like to store that metadata into some data center, right? So that's why we have this small thing here called as resource group location. So this says that where do you want to store the metadata of this resource group. Please note, this is the metadata, not the actual resource, right? So I'll say, okay, I want to store it in US at this moment. Please fix the errors. Okay, looks like the resource cannot have alphanumeric characters and so on. So let's say web development, right? Web development client 1. Okay, and I will say create. Now the time I say create, you can see that it tells me that the resource group has been created. So if I go to resource groups, I can see this web development client 1. So now that you have created the resource group, now it is time to go and add resources to this resource group, right? So now let us say that you want to go and host a website. So what I've done over here is you can see that I have a very simple folder here, and in this I've created one HTML page. And in this HTML page, I have like, this is my first Azure website. So let's say I want to go and host this HTML page onto Azure, right? So for that, I need to go and allocate resources, right? So to this resource group, I will go and do that. Now remember, a website, a mobile application, a web application, these are all applications, right? So for the applications, you can see that there is a menu here called as an app service. So when you want to go and host a website or host a mobile app or host an API service, this is the menu what you will select on. So I'm going to go and click on app services, and over here I will go and say add here. Now as soon as I say add, it actually gives me a lot of flavors of applications, saying that is this a simple web application, is this web application with SQL Server, is this an app service, is this using WordPress, Sitecore. So you can see lots of flavor out here, which you can use here. So currently I'll say this is a very simple web application. I'll click on this, and I will say here create, and let us give a name to this app. Now whatever name you give to this app, it will become like the app name.azurewebsites.net. So for example, if I give a name here, test my app, you can see like all the names have been taken till now. So I'll say test my app in Mumbai, okay, or in india.azurewebsites.net, right? So then he says, okay, what is the subscription? The subscription is a free trial, which I'm using for now. And I will add this resource to this resource group. So you can see here now, I'll go and add this to this resource group. Remember, we said that resource group helps you to take the resources and put them into a specific container so that you can monitor them, you can do accounting, right? It actually groups them into a specific logical unit, right? Now, depending on what technology you have used, must be you want to use the Windows operating system, or must be you want to use Linux, right? So I'm going to go and click on Windows at this moment. After this, he says that, okay, so for this app, how much do you want to spend? How much heavy resources do you want? Do you want 1 GB RAM? Do you want 2 GB RAM? Do you want dual core, multi-core? So you can see that is decided by this app service plan here. So I'm going to go and click on app service plan. At this moment, if you see here, it is actually, if you see by default, this app service is using a standard plan at this moment. So let me go and create my own plan. So if I say click on this plan, so it says, so I'll say this is my plan 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now it says that, okay, so this plan is is applicable for which geographical location. So in short, it says that where do you want to store the metadata of it, where do you want to allocate the servers, right? So I will say US at this moment. I will leave it. After that, we have this pricing tier. This pricing tier, depending on what this pricing tier defines, that how much money do you want to spend on this app. For example, if you say that no, like this is just a test app, must be you want to just use a 1 GB storage. If you say no, like I also need some domains, then you can say 1 GB plus custom domains. If you say that, okay, I want, something more stronger, must be you can just go at the top and you can say, okay, I want an isolated virtual machine, allocated to him with the 14 GB RAM, SSD and all that, and you can see that's a per month cost, right? It is in INR, but you can convert it to a dollar as well, right? So this pricing plan actually just tells you that how much strong resources you want, right? So it starts from a free and goes till isolated. Now I will not go through each one of these plans out here. You can read it, you can understand it, right? What we will do is, we are already using the free thing, right? We have just such a small amount of money, right? So let us go and select this free F1 free storage 0 month, 0 INR per month. So I'm going to go and select this so that I don't spend my money unnecessarily, right? And I'll say okay. So I'm creating a plan which is actually a free plan, and in this free plan I've said that I want to use this simple 1 GB of storage, nothing more than that, right? And I'll say okay, and I'll say create it. Now once you click on create, it will actually create a web application. It will actually create a simple web application kind of a directory. If you see out here, as soon as I said create, you can see that it is actually doing a deployment. You can see this, it's saying deployment to the resource group. So it's actually creating a resource and allocating it to the resource group, right? And once this deployment is successful, it will actually give a message here that it is successful, right? So you can see deployment in progress, and after some time I hope to see deployment completed. So you can see here, you can see all the status here. This is dismissed, this is informational, this is completed, this is all, right? So okay, what happened? Right, what happened to my messages, right? So it's just gone, right? Okay, but I hope, okay, so there it is. It says that deployment succeeded and it has been deployed to this resource, and the group is web development client 1, right? So if we go to app services now, you can see that we have this test my app in India, right? And inside this test my app, we can now go ahead and deploy our project, right? So I can click on this test my app in India. So if you go to this test my app in India, you can see a lot of things out here, right? As I've said previously, go slow. Do not try to learn all the menus in one go, right? So over here, if you see, the most important thing is that you'd like to know what are the settings for this. It means, in other words, which framework it is using, does it have Java installed or not? So for that, you can click on this application settings out here. So it says that it's an IAAS it's an IAAS web server, and it has .NET 4.7, it has PHP and all that, right? So I'm not interested in PHP at this moment. I can just off it, so that Python also I have offed it. So you can see it's an integrated kind of a pipeline and all that. So you can, this is all the settings of IAAS, which you have been seeing from the IAAS menu at this moment. So I'm going to go and save this, and I have disabled the PHP version out here because I'm not going to use PHP, right? So that's good. So I have created the resource, and we want to go and deploy now this website, this home.html, into this test my app in India, right? Now from these tabs out here, let us start with at least 3 tabs. So the first one is the overview. In the overview, you can see the resource group name. You can see that the status it is running or not, what is the location where this resource is hosted, FTP, and so on, right? So you can see an overall view of this resource, right? The second one, which we just visited, is the application setting, where you can go and see that which kind of frameworks version has been installed and what kind of thing has been configured for this application, right? The third one, which is very important, is the deployment credentials. Now we would like to go and deploy on this application which we have created, right? On this web app which we have created. So for that, we need to go and create an FTP username and password. So you can see that there is a FTP username here. So let me go and type a password here. So I'll just go and type a password. Right, so there it is, and I will just save this. So I've just created an FTP username and password so that if somebody wants to go and upload things, he can do it over here, right? If you want to get the FTP access, you can go and click on this overview over here, and on this overview you can see that the FTP URL is given here. So this is the FTP URL. So let me go and try to do an FTP. So I'm going to go and copy this directly over here. So I'm going to go directly to the FTP, and it's asking me for the username. So my username is this one, right? And my password. So with this I should be able to go and see the files. So there, the files are there. Now you can see that there is a directory here called a site. So let me go and click on this site here. So in this site you can see there is a www root directory. So you need to go and upload your file to this www root directory. Okay, so at this moment I'm not connected through a proper FTP. So let us go ahead and connect through a proper FTP client, right? So let me download a FTP client and let us connect to this Azure website and let us host it, right? So basically what you need to do is you need to go and upload your site in this www root. If you do not upload in the www root, you won't be able to see your page. So you can see that I have downloaded this cute FTP software over here, and through this FTP let us go and upload our website, right? So our website at this moment is a simple home.html page. Maybe I can just rename this to index.html page, so that we can just see the site, right? Because index.html page is the startup page in the web app. So now let us go and connect over here. So I will say file new FTP site. So we already have the credentials. So the FTP site, this is the FTP URL, FTP username, copy this, password. And as we have said that you should upload in the www root folder. So there it is. You can see the site folder. Inside the site folder there is www root. So let us go and upload this website inside this. So I'm going to go and upload this HTML page onto this. And now let us try to go and browse this site. So I'm going to go and browse this URL, test my app in india.azurewebsites.net. For some reason it did not show up the index.html, but there it is, right? I think if we rename this to index.htm, that should be the startup. Let me check it. So I've just renamed this to index.htm, and let us see. Okay, so we'll check out what is the home page for it, how we can make it as a startup page. So that's the next exercise. But you can see that I can browse to my website and it's working. Okay, good. But definitely when you're working on big projects, people don't use FTP like this, right? You would like to do it through your Visual Studio or through your tool, right? So let me now go and host an MVC application over here. So let me create an ASP.NET MVC application and let me host it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and open Visual Studio 2017. Let me create an ASP.NET Core application, must be an MVC5 application, whatever. And let us try to host it on this web app. So here is a simple MVC application I have created. I just took the basic MVC web application template and I just pressed OK. So I have not coded anything. I have not created any kind of code or pages. I just took the default template what comes with your MVC web application and I've created this project. So when I run this project, I get to see so that's the home page, right? So the way we are seeing this home page in offline, we would like to see it also online, right? So let us go ahead and host it. So hosting is again simple. We have to say build and we have to say publish. So you can see this build and publish menu. So let us click on build publish, and it says that, so one is that you can directly go and host on Azure App Service, or you can go and do a FTP as well, right? So FTP I have already done. I will not show it over here, right? Let us do using the Azure App Service. So I'll say Azure App Service, I'll say select existing one, and I will say publish. Now once I say publish, right, it actually opens up the screen here, and you need to be logged in with your account. So you can your Microsoft account. So you can see here at this moment I'm logged in with this Questpond account, right? So if you're not logged in, you have to add the account here. Okay, so it says that okay, so that's a free trial, and it is the resource, this is a resource group, right? And you want to host it in this test app my India, test app in India, right? So I want to host it there, so I will select this test app my India, test app in India, and I'll say okay. So you can see now it is preparing the profile, and let me just hit publish. First it actually does a build by default, and once the build finishes, it will start publishing the site. So let us see what happens. You can see now it is trying to publish, web publish activity. So there it is. You can see it says publish succeeded, and if I click on this website, you can see now my ASP.NET MVC core application is running on Azure. So that's the thing. Now let us go back to dashboard and let us see that where these files have been uploaded. Also you can see like over here you are getting notifications saying, you know, this has been deployed, it has been, you know, reset and all that. So let us go and see that where our files have been uploaded. So if you want to go and see the files out here, again there is one more important menu over here which I always use, which is the console. I like this. Let us click on console, and this console is like your normal command prompt what you have. So you can see like it has actually taken me to the www root folder. So if I just go and say directory over here, I should be able to see all my files. So slow directory, you can see all my files, my app settings.json, my bower.json, my index.html, or my views and all, everything has been installed out here, right? So again, remember this console is also a nice thing, you know, it's just in case you want to quickly see the files. So remember console. The second one which is important is the properties, right? And the one which I've set application settings, right? And the first one is the overview. So overview, deployment credentials, right? FTP, application settings to just see which the frameworks are, and console. So for now, just remember these menus. As we said, do not try to learn all of them in one go. As we proceed, we will try to learn more things, right? Also over here there is a nice thing called as an app service editor, right? This app service editor is nothing but it is an online editor. You know, in case you want to just go and change something in the files, you don't want to download, you don't want to upload, right? So you can go to this app service editor out here. It's asking me for the password, so let me it's telling me to sign in. That is strange. Yeah, because so it's quite a long password. So let me I've kept such a long name here. Questpond interview questions at gmail.com. Oh gosh, so sad I am. So let me do that. I'm sorry for this email ID. Actually, you know, like if you look at my past history, I've been writing a lot of interview questions, right? So this account was created at that time. So I just use this account to create my Azure account. Enter password. So what is this editor actually? This editor is nothing but it's an online editor wherein you would like to just go ahead and edit some files and save it right away there. So you can see now it has opened up. This looks exactly like VS Code. So it is like VS Code online actually. In case you are new to VS Code, I would suggest to go and watch this video of VS Code where we explain what exactly is VS Code, right? So in this VS, so here what I can do is I can just quickly go and edit, like for example, I can go and edit, let's say index.html. I can just go and say added something, right? And I can quickly go and save this. So that's saved as well, right? So basically, if you want to quickly go and change some things out here online, you can do it. Now remember, it's always a bad idea to change something out production, but we all know that developers have that out of the box solution. Sometimes they try to find in production, so you can use it once in a while, right? So app service editor, console, then we have application settings, deployment options, right, and the overview, right? So this was a very simple demo, where we actually deployed an MVC application online. So you can deploy by using FTP, or if you want, you can also deploy by using the publish wizard. So if you see this build publish wizard, you have one is you have the FTP option as well. You also have the Azure app service as well. Also, one more great option of doing a publish is by getting the publish profile. So you can see here, like what you can do is you can go to the overview here, and in the overview you can click on this more, and you can get this publish profile file. Now what is this publish profile file? This file has the necessary credentials, by which you can go and you can log into the site. So what I can do is I can go here to my Visual Studio, and I can say create a new profile, and I'll say import this profile, right? So I can go and say import profile, and I can go and point to that file. So with that, what will happen is I don't have to give the username and passwords again and again. What happened to the import profile? Import profile. So I'll just click on this import profile. I'll import this publish settings, right? So now my publish settings have been imported, right? And you can see over here I have multiple profiles. One is FTP and one is web deploy, right? So now what I can do is I can just say build publish, right? And okay, we need to change something out here. Change something. Remember that if nothing has changed, it does not deploy anything. So that's again a very good idea. So build publish. Yeah, now it is saying yes. Now what do you want to do? So now what I can do is I can go and I can select that profile. So you can see here he already has this profile out here. So this profile I can go and I can just say publish on this, right? So remember, you can also use the profile file as well. So you can use FTP, you can use profile, or you can go and directly publish it. So that brings us to the end of this session, right? So in this session, what we did is we just got warmed up. So we first understood what is Azure, what is cloud, what is IAAS, PAAS, and SAAS. And then we went ahead and we registered ourselves into the Azure website. And then we walked through some important fundamentals like resource groups, resources. We created a simple web app service, and we hosted MVC application. We hosted a simple HTML file as well. So we saw different publishing options, like one is you can use FTP, you can use the normal publish, or also if you want, you can use the public setting files, right? And also we went through some important menus out here. So we saw how to go and set the deployment options. We saw how to go and see that which frameworks have been installed for a specific web application. And we also looked into the command prompt, where we can go and console application, or console I will say rather, where we can go and see the directories. And also we talked about app service editor, which is an online editor where we can go and see the files. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. So this was the lab 1. Now in lab 2 we will go ahead and we'll create SQL Server resource, and we will see that can we connect through our MVC application to SQL Server. So we have completed till now approximately 45 minutes of the video, and in the next video we will look into SQL Server.